Maybe I'll ask
Yeah,
a
they would
couple of
swap.
questions. Yeah, because it's gonna be, I don't know, half an hour at least, I'd say. Then we can have like another half an hour of discussion. I can just ask questions and then I'll just open the floor to whoever wants to talk about anything.
I subbed to
Yeah,
it.
you'll kind of
Okay,
get a feel.
cool. All right, I'm gonna go live and see how
All
this
right.
works. There's a lot of background noise, so hopefully it doesn't come into this. So
Yeah, we don't hear.
okay.
It'll be fun. All right.
But we can hear Cleary's.
Awesome. How's it going, everyone? Thank you for watching. This is the presentation that I have been advertising for the last couple of days here. This is the Antarctic Challenge. And, well, this is the culmination of a lot of research that I've been doing for the past 2 years or so. And I am very happy you guys are joining me now. And I'd just like to thank everyone for the support, the NIPS group. I know you guys are doing a great job over there at NIPS. So we've got a server called the Nameless Internet Potato Society. That's what I like to call it. And we're just a nameless bunch of people who love discussing the reality we live in. And this is just meant for you to critically think about the world we're living in. And this is just one of many presentations that I will be doing, and hopefully we'll have more people doing other presentations as well. So let's see here. Hey, Emma, everyone, cool, what's up? The Ham, Plain Truth. Yo. Okay, so we're doing what I like to call as I like to call this the Antarctic Challenge, because basically Antarctica is referred to Antarctica because first off, ant is used as a phrase to mean anti. It's just a little word that they use to put it in front of the Arctic to mean opposite of the Arctic. So at the beginning, though, I hesitate to use the words, if I could, in a perfect world, the Antarctic or Antarctica, because I think it's sort of a misnomer to both sides, globe and flat, that Antarctic and Antarctica are just this connected, this landmass that has, no types of inlets or anything into it. It's just an ice wall, basically. And I think that's what people kind of think about when they say that. But I just like to say the outskirts of our realm, the outer boundaries, basically. So, and this is south being opposite of north. And also, if directions are your thing, and you're very picky about that, then, well, I mean, the south is basically what I refer to as the outer lands of where we live. So I think the challenge is basically to kind of uncover the mysterious nature of where we're living at, basically, in the lands that surround us and are encompassing the boundaries of where we're living in. So how do we make sense of the outer boundaries, basically? And it's important to know how we define the barriers, too. Before I get into this, I want to say that the barriers are actually man-made, and they can also be physical. So physical as being like tangible. So like a physical boundary could be like, say, some sort of barrier, like a wall or something. Not even that. It's kind of funny to say wall, but it's just there are these giant ice shelves that do surround us. So I mean, by wall, I mean basically ice shelves. So there are also the man-made barriers, like say the Antarctic Treaty, which restrict anybody from actually going to certain regions without proper authorization. And as I think a lot of people know, the authorization to go to Antarctica is fairly challenging. And there's a video that I like to just quickly reference. It's by a guy named Taboo Conspiracy 3, and it's called Sorry, basically, Antarctica, we are closed. And it was on my channel recently, and it got pulled down a couple days ago. So if you're looking for it, go over to the Taboo Conspiracy 3 channel. So
Expose.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry to jump in. Your sound in here is perfect, but on the YouTube, it sounds like echoey, like you're in a large room.
Okay, let me fix that really fast.
Okay. I'll go and listen. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah, it sounded like your mic was doubling.
Oh. So 1 second, let me try to fix this audio really fast.
No worries. Sounds fine on Discord.
Yeah, I know Discord's fine. I haven't streamed it. Sometimes it's a little off. So how would you do this? How would you fix this? I don't know. Let's see. So I would do edit in the studio.
You got audio on OBS. It might be picking up double.
Yeah,
Probably got a desktop audio.
Yeah, it's probably desktop audio somewhere on OBS.
Which one do you have? Streamlabs?
So I have desktop audio and desktop audio too. So maybe I need to mute one.
Yeah, you want to? Yeah, you do.
Let me. Should I just lock volume? Yeah, I think. Can you hear only one now, or no? There's two going still. So I'm muting one. Let me see if I can just mute this one.
You want to leave one? Are you? Just,
I'm just gonna disable. I'm just gonna disable it. Okay, that might sound a little better now. Or desktop audio, and I've got mic. Oh, my mic is. There's two mics. Let me fix that 1 second. Disable mic 3. So I only have two now, so it should be maybe a little better.
Yeah, you should only really need one desktop and one mic.
Desktop and mic, that's all I have now.
Yep, you're good then.
Okay, I think
Emma,
that Emma, is that okay now? That's probably still echoey then. I don't know, let me see.
Buster.
Anyone out there? Let me see. Let me in chat. Is that better?
Keep talking so they can.
Can you guys hear me a little bit better now so I can go on with this? Because I would like to have this uninterrupted. I was looking forward to the stream. Cool, thanks Calypso. Yeah, I'm still fixing the audio really fast.
Doug says that it sounds better.
It sounds better now.
Yeah, you've always got bugs to work out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, always some technical issues.
Oh yeah. You're good to go.
Okay, so the Antarctic challenge again. Let me. I guess I can kind of just start from a little bit from the beginning.
That's way better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was it.
Thank you.
Cool. So the Antarctic challenge, like I was saying, we're just trying to challenge ourselves to find out more about the Antarctic landmass. We're in kind of a sticky situation when it comes to finding out exactly why or what is going on with the outside lands, because we're kind of at a disadvantage since we don't have $1 billion to basically map out the entire uh, ice barrier, like I like to call it. We don't have the means to get out there. We don't have the permission. First off, like I was saying, it's very hard to actually get out into the Antarctica. Thanks for that, Calypso. Yeah, it's very hard to get out there and see exactly what's going on. Okay, so the second title I'd like to call is called "Making Sense of the Outer Barriers of Our Realm," and like I did before, I defined everything, I think, so we don't need to go back. Part one. So this is part one of what I'd like to use as maybe a series of different parts of different things that relate to Antarctica, because there is a lot, and for me to cover everything right now in one presentation, it would be very tedious. So I just kind of decided to make it as just a one-part series at the beginning, and then just go from there. So we've got, and also subscribe on YouTube at Exposed Antarctica. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. You can also find me alternativerealm at gmail.com, patreon.com, Exposed Antarctica, and my Instagram at Exposed Antarctica, where you can find more information about what I'm doing. And also, as well, we have on the Level Discord, chat with us about being levelers. Chat with us about about level being horizontal. And for your latest straight and level gear, head over to the merchandise store at teespring.com. This is a Domesticated Primates merchandise store shop. You guys can all check that out. And so, yeah. So also as well, we have Flat Map. Flat Mat actually has a YouTube channel you guys need to check out. It's called Can't Cross Antarctica, right here. And what he's doing is he's basically he's going across supposedly after he raises about I don't know, anywhere from like $100,000 to about $150,000 for a plane ride. So it's about 10,000 an hour to actually rent a private jet and try to fly across. So that'd be interesting to see where he goes with that. And he also needs about 100,000 subscribers until he decided he wants to go across Antarctica. So he needs that sort of support until he tries to do that. So cool guy. Okay, so let's see here. So let's start off with the Truman Show. So I'm gonna play a short little clip from the Truman Show, and I think this is a very telling scene from from the movie here, and let's just watch it. And I'm just gonna have a quote for you guys to actually ponder, or I like to say the True Man Show.
Who are you? I am the creator of a television show that gives hope and joy and inspiration to millions. Then who am I? You're the star. Was nothing real? You were real. That's what made you so good to watch. Listen to me, Truman. There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you. Same lies, the same deceit. But in my world, you have nothing to fear.
Okay, that was a very emotional scene for Truman, and that was Ed Harris and Jim Carrey. So that was right before Truman leaves and he goes into, I guess you can say, another reality, because for Truman, that was his reality, and that's kind of like I think where we're at right now. We're at a crossroads in a sense. So here's a quote: "There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you." Now let's think about that for a second. Um, are you just living in a space contained by other people watching you and feeding off of you for whatever reason? Do you think that there are walls being placed upon you right now? Things that you don't understand that are happening, people that don't make sense to you, that say things that just really don't make any sense. So I guess a lot of us, I can say, we're kind of like in the Truman Show right now. We have no idea what is going on. We're kind of at a standstill because whatever is happening, um, we just can't really understand. And why is it happening? So yeah, why is it for power, or is it is it just for somebody's entertainment? We really don't understand this. So another question is to ask: will you ever wake up and try to escape your spiritual uh, servitude, in a sense? Your servitude is why I think uh, we are here. Your spirit is here, and it's serving out its destiny, in a sense. It could be bad. It could be good. Servitude. It sounds bad, but it could just be could be a natural way. So also ask: will you repeat the soul matrix if you don't try? Um, some people might not say this is a matrix, but I believe it's the soul matrix. And all I believe are valid questions. And that for right now. I just believe in understanding validity and asking ourselves and venturing into ourselves, really, and connecting with ourselves. And also, you have to ask yourself while you're listening to this and watching this: coincidence or not? Okay, so Antarctica, right? So like I was explaining before, ant is opposite of whatever you're comparing it to. So anti whatever. Then Arctic right here we have the North Pole. So this is opposite of the North Pole, Antarctica. And it's a very mysterious place for a lot of people because there's not many people that actually go down to Antarctica. We've got scientists, we've got military people, and yes, I do believe that Antarctica is actually a real place. You can actually go down there and you can go and visit it. There is a a tour that actually goes down there. Yes, that's a very common misconception people have. So here's the globe denier proof family picture. We have Antarctica over on the right. We have Coriolis, nice little baby. Oh, cute. We've got level is horizontal, the daddy. Oh, it seems like Antarctica is always the oddball out for some reason. Anytime I talk about it, or anyone that wants to talk about it, it seems like it's not the most brought up topic for some reason because, well, it's very hard to define exactly what's happening. It's hard to define what the celestial bodies are doing and how they're connected to such a place. It's a mysterious place. So, as I was saying, it's visited by people, but these people that go and visit, you can't really escape these designated areas that you're confined to. The football field analogy, as I like to say, is like you're confined to no more than a football field when you visit. So yeah, it's funny that people have those misconceptions. So without understanding this the history of what's going on would be very um, mm, unwise because we've got Masonic, I believe, entities going and writing history. That's what I like to call it, the Masonic Grappler history. So the Masons, as everyone knows what a Mason is, we've got grabblers. Grabblers are people who grab for power, and they try to take whatever they can. And I just like to refer to them as the grabblers. They're the people in the hierarchy above the common man. They're they're those who just hide in the shadows and they enforce their will onto others. Okay. And I also like to refer to them as being the special people, or you can say the special boys. Okay, so here we have one of the discoverers of Antarctica. We have Bellinghausen. He was also joined by another guy named Lazarev, and they became the first explorers to see and officially discover the, the continent of Antarctica. And I know a lot of people have that misconception that James Cook actually discovered Antarctica, which James Cook actually went and he discovered a certain island, a certain area that was next to Antarctica. And that is not actually officially Antarctica. And so what I like to say is after that, this is basically the beginning of the Grabbler Masonic Special Boy history that they use to basically deceive us. So like I was saying before, you don't have to believe what I'm saying, telling you. This is just for your information so you can know. So and like I was I was thinking a lot of people think is who knows what happened before, like in Antarctica. Who were the civilizations that were actually there? So, let's see here. So we've got different areas. I'm going to use the mouse here. So we've got different land areas. I think a lot of people might know this. This is from the Antarctic Treaty. So we've got different countries that own different portions of Antarctica. We've got Australia that's owns a large chunk of it. We've got France, Norway, Chile, Argentina, the UK owns a lot. Brazil owns this pie piece. Norway owns this pie piece and a little island over here. And Mary Bird Land is actually not claimed right now. Some guy tried to claim it, I think, but it's not really recognized by any other country, so it's still officially listed as unclaimed. And New Zealand owns a little bit as well. So, it's funny. So we have got Mary Bird Land, and as you might know, Mary Bird was actually Admiral Byrd's wife. And so if we go on here, funny enough, in Mary Bird Land right here, not a lot going on as well. NBL. And we've got the sea, we've got Ross Sea here. And so this is basically West Antarctica and East Antarctica. And we've got the mountains right here that are kind of dividing this this split. Weddell Sea, we've got the McMurdo around here, Ross Islands over here. And this would be, up here would be the going up north towards South America. Over here is to Australia. And here are the different bases. We've also have Japan, and we also have Norway. We've got Germany that has some area down here. China has some, and we've got Sweden. We also have ZAF stands for South Africa, India. So we've got a lot of different countries owning different places around, and most of these are actually scientific research stations that you can go to. A lot of the times, no one's actually here. Ruskaya is a base that you can't really visit it. It's abandoned. There's some abandoned different bases there. What do we have here? Is this a Rockefeller Plateau at 666? Huh. Coincidence or not, like I was saying before, right? So, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't think this is actually a coincidence, right? But as you know, John D. Rockefeller, who was a major financier of the Byrd expeditions, he actually gave Admiral Byrd a lot of the money that was used to explore these lands. And you would think, it was actually because of the United States, since he was, representing the Navy, that would finance him. But funny enough, that is not the case. Next one, we have Rothschild Island, funny enough. So we have got some interesting symbology going on here. We've got Rothschild Island at 39 kilometers here. So what we know now is the Gravelers love to use 3, 6, and 9. They use 3, 9 a lot. And over here we've got 6, 9, 3, 6, 3, 3, 3, 9 as well. Is that a coincidence or not? I don't know. I don't think so. I would say that is not a coincidence. Do they purposely, go to places and coordinate different areas and have them marked off for these certain people, depending on what the numbers are. Comparing them to other areas, with longitude and latitude. I don't know. It's just they might. That's what it looks like, maybe. But it's up to you. Is that a coincidence or not? Some people will say it is. It's just a coincidence, right? So model. What is the model? What would you say? So, what model? So I prescribe to not actually having a certain model. Most people, I think, would kind of say the same thing, right? We don't really need a certain model, because how do we know what is right or what's wrong? Everything that's been presented to us has actually been kind of incorrect in a way. Who's to say that we need a model right now? And that's one of the talking points that we need to get away from. But I'm going to go over different popular models, and if we can actually see what's going on, really. So first one, we have one of the first maps here. This was taken from the Air Force One many years ago. We have what appears to be on the outside two separate islands. One to the south of South America, and one east of Australia a little bit, and to the south. I don't know. That's could it be photoshopped? Photoshopped into the Air Force One? I don't know. Possibly, but I mean, there's different images of it popping up in different areas as well. So next one, we have what was found actually in Honolulu. It was supposedly taken from a temple, and over 1,000 years ago. Apparently, it was dated back to. Supposedly, I think it was Japan. And so what we have here, we've got our inner pond, we've got the outer pond, and we've got separate other little ponds, sort of in the outside here, with different gates, as you can see, leading into different water areas. And this is the Gleason's map. I think everybody kind of knows this map. This is kind of like the map I think everyone kind of would lean towards if they had to choose a model. So to say we don't have a model completely is, I think, kind of not good practice. We kind of understand there could be a point of which we're surrounded by, because I mean, I think everyone would say we're kind of circular in nature, right? This is a circle. Okay, we can actually go from point A over to point B. There's no land barrier stopping us from going in a circle here. Circular. This is a circle. This is a straight line, right? So everyone can kind of agree on that. So we've got a circle in the middle, maybe, if you wanted to put one there, imaginary one, and everything emanating from that, and everything else on the outside we're not really allowed to go. You can say is just the outside, or the ice barrier, or you can call it whatever you want. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go into the Masons. These people, I believe, have an important influence on what is going on in the history of Antarctica and its place in history. So without further ado, here's a guy with a Masonic flag, and it appears to be at the geographic South Pole here. Uh, it's Masonic in nature, as you can see. The square and compass. Is this guy a Mason? Maybe. I would think he probably, but I mean, who knows? It's just telling you exactly, you know, what's happening here. And so we've got this little you can call it like a little monument or thing right here. I'll show you guys this later, and this is interesting as well. But what it is, it's just this is where they think the geographic 90 latitude point is, and they love telling you guys that they are the complete they're the rulers. They are the people who own it. They own kind of like the reality that we live in. So next picture I have here, the Masons and the mind. This is what I really want to stress right now, is that they have the key to sort of your brain in a way, and they kind of advertise it here, don't they? They kind of tell you that they are the masters with their symbology. Oh, look at this. Is this just a coincidence right here? This island floating out in the middle, is this, it happens to kind of look like the brain. Is that a coincidence or not? I don't know. You have to decide. So as everyone knows, hopefully, what that is. But here, we have a yin and a yang symbol, don't we? And this is taken at the geographic South Pole. We've got this the outside. We got the two celestial bodies here represented. We got the sun and the moon, and also I was thinking maybe we have it could be sort of like this partial blockage of the sun represented here with Rahu and Ketu. I was thinking. So this is the Amundsen Scott base. This is where it's at. It's kind of funny, huh? They have like sort of this representation of the two celestial sky bodies. I think the sun and the moon kind of represented in the yin and yang form. So it kind of represents kind of like, I don't know, the Masonic nature in a way. We've got the white and the black represented by the Solomon's temple, the black and white checkered floor in a way. We've got sort of the electromagnetic spectrum, the duality. It's representation of the male and the female, as well as different aspects of different cultures, especially in Korea. I lived in Korea for a while, and this is the kind of what they represent their flag as, used in religions as well. So that one's definitely coincidence or not. So here we got another one at the South Pole. We've got it's actually a monument to Pluto and Neil Armstrong. Kind of odd, if you were to ask me. These are two different, things in a way. You've got Neil Armstrong, who is he a Mason? I couldn't find any information of him being a Mason. Buzz Aldrin was definitely a Mason, as you will see in a second. But as you can see here, we've got the 9 circular representations. These are representing what are to be the planets, and you've got Pluto as a dwarf planet as well. So that was kind of odd, even though Pluto really isn't even a planet, but yet they kind of have a monument towards that. And as you might be aware that 9 is actually a very sacred number to the Masons. They use that number in different instances. You can see that maybe with COVID-19. And as I think you might know, Masons, I use that term encompassing the Masons and the Masonic entities. I don't believe that the good old special boys down at the local Masonic lodge are pulling off these elaborate feats of deception, but there are definitely people that are in charge of how we interpret our reality, and this is where we need to be asking these questions. Basically, is why are these things taking place, and why are these odd grappler poles coming up? So, as well as Pluto can also be referred to as the unseen one. So we have Pluto being in it's sort of the last guy. It was sort of the last one kind of officially kind of discovered, and you can't really see it as you kind of tell. It was really hard. It's really hard to actually see Pluto with through a telescope. Apparently, you can see everything else, but you can't supposedly see Pluto through a telescope. So it's kind of them mocking you with that symbology, because Pluto is Hades in Greek mythology. Hades was the ruler of the underworld, and he was the unseen one. So we have that representation here. And so they love mocking the sleepy, brainwashed masses with this stuff. And as well as, let's see here, we've got people who signed it, who helped out, and then yeah, it's to Neil Armstrong and Pluto. Oh, funny enough, they put Pluto right on the official NASA image of the planet Pluto, or dwarf planet, and we've got Pluto, oh, fitting nicely right into that, huh? Is that a coincidence or not? That would be a pretty big coincidence. The cartoon character face is actually exactly represented on the official NASA image of Pluto. So here is the special boy pole I was talking to you guys about. We've got 90 south. We've got a dome covering the Antarctic landmass that's pictured. So again, with the 9, they love the 9, and they love having these little representations of domes, as well as different Masonic symbologies. So, what do we have here? Buzz Aldrin with the Sovereign Commander, the Masonic flag he took with him to the moon. And we've got the Supreme Council 33 here. Supposedly he went up on 1969 in a basic, what was it? It's like it looked like a tin foil wrapped sort of playhouse vehicle. He dropped down on that onto the moon, and supposedly he took this with him. That's kind of funny. So, as you can see here, we've got Masons as explorers. Oh, isn't this is kind of funny? Buzz Aldrin as a Mason. This is totally a coincidence, I bet. There. It's up to you guys, though. Most people will say this is a coincidence, like Um, most of the people, oh yeah, he's okay. He's just pointing to his eye. Maybe his eye hurt. I don't know. He was scratching his eye probably. He was just scratching his eye and the camera caught it. And here we also have another picture of Buzz Aldrin as the Mason he is. He's in regalia, Masonic regalia. So now we have Antarctica Grappler Explorer actors, I like to call them. So the history is up to you to decide if it's real or not. I personally don't believe in the history that they give us. It's very half-truthsy, partial history, but the history that they do give us it's important to understand how and why they do it. So let's see here. I'm gonna go on about these famous explorers to the South Pole and to the Antarctic and explore different areas in the Antarctic. First one we have Robert Scott. So Robert Scott, he was a British explorer. He was known for the Terra Nova expedition where he reached the South Pole. Basically 5 weeks. Kind of comparing it with Amundsen. One of them reached it and the other one didn't. And unfortunately, he died on his journey back from Antarctica, and he was celebrated as a hero afterwards. Scott was a member of several lodges, and one of the first lodges he was at was Drury Lane Lodge number 2127, and he also was at the Albans Lodge, and he was also in a lodge at New Zealand and the Navy Lodge of England, number 2613. So a lot of lodges this guy went to, and he was definitely a Mason. We've got a lot of information on him being a Mason. Next one, we've got Roald Amundsen. Roald Amundsen, he was from Norway, and he was one of the first explorers to reach the South Pole. Or he was the first, actually. This was in 1911, and he was actually known for exploring the North as well. And here's a picture of this sort of Masonic figure. So there's not a lot of stuff known about Roald Amundsen being actually in the Masonic lodges as kind of as an explorer while he was doing his expeditions. But there's plenty of references to him as being a Mason. Just one of them right here. We've got Brother Roald Amundsen became the first man to reach the North Pole. Masons of California have him listed as a brother. There's different sources that will say different things, but it's up to you to decide after that. There's only so much information you can read about. And next we have Ernest Shackleton. He was born in Ireland, and he moved to London when he was 10. And he was an explorer who led 3 British expeditions into the Antarctic. And he was known for what was called the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, 1914 through 1917. And he was commander of the ship called Endurance, and it became trapped in ice, basically. And the crew escaped. They camped on ice for a while, which it was kind of famous for in the folklore of Antarctica, in which they got lifeboats. They hit another island called Elephant Island, and then they ultimately reached South Georgia Island. which is off the shore of Antarctica. So Shackleton was initiated into Navy Lodge number 2612, the United Grand Lodge of England, on the 9th of July in 1901. And he didn't really advance as fast as others. After his initiation, he joined Shackleton on he joined Captain Scott's expedition to Antarctica that aimed to be the first to reach the South Pole. So, despite the expedition's failure, Shackleton, he was inspired to lead his own in 1907. Then, sequentially, he actually went on and did more expeditions. And then he was knighted in 1909. So, he also attended the first regular meeting of the Guild of Freemen Lodge, number 3525, in 1911, and was passed to the second degree by that lodge on the 2nd of November of 1911. And he was raised to the degree of Master Mason of Guild Freeman Lodge on May 30th, 1913. So here's what we know of Shackleton's trans-Antarctic voyage. It coincidentally didn't happen for some reason. Like I said before, his ship got stuck in the ice, if you want to believe that, and they had to be rescued. And apparently, they got into like I said before, they got into this raft, and they miraculously like drifted 1,000 miles to an island, and then to another island, like 600 or 800 miles, and they got saved somehow. And I don't know. I don't believe it really, but it's up to you guys. I mean, there might be evidence of it that really persuades somebody, like a diary entry. I don't know. They've got diary entries maybe. So again, like I was saying before, Shackleton here is a polar explorer and a Freemason. And he's a very well-known figure, very popular figure. He's had a lot of attention, just like this man, Richard Byrd. Richard Byrd, he was a recipient of the Medal of Honor, and he had the highest honor for valor given by the United States. That's the Medal of Honor, if anyone doesn't know that. He was an aviator, he was a polar explorer, and he organized a lot of the polar logistics. He had a career as a navigator, expedition leader, and he crossed the Atlantic Ocean, segments of the Antarctic Plateau. And he became, supposedly in the Grappler history, the first to reach the North and the South Pole. And there's a lot of speculation on how he actually reached the North Pole. In his memoirs, he states that when he went to the North Pole, he was taken in by this sort of alien civilization right before he was, about to go. He wrote this. He wrote this. It was a really great book that he wrote about his adventures. If you believe that stuff, that he was taken in, it's hard for me at this point now to believe any Mason. So he also discovered Mount Sidley, which was actually a volcano in Antarctica, which they actually do have volcanoes. So Richard Byrd was the first member of Federal Lodge Number 1 in Washington, D.C. on March 9th, 1921. He and his pilot, Bernd Balken, they supposedly dropped Masonic flags on both poles. So here is one of these film movie posters that they had of him when he was going into Antarctica. They had a film crew, so you can actually supposedly view all these films they have of him going into Antarctica, and this is him going to the South Pole supposedly. I don't know about you guys. I've seen a lot of those videos. Could it have been staged? Possibly, yes. Is there evidence of him going to the South Pole? I don't know. Did they go to Antarctica? Probably. Yeah, they probably did a lot of footage with the Navy ships. Did they actually go to the places they said they were? I don't see any evidence of them doing that, but they're obviously they did probably go to Antarctica with a lot of ships and film a lot of stuff. But it's up to you to believe in the other stuff. So here he is again. This is one of his famous photos he has, one of his expeditions. So let's talk about flights really fast. I've been going on for a while. So let's see here, flights. So as you guys all might know what a great circle is, I hope. It's simply just basically you put say like a plane. You get a plane and you just cut it a sphere in half with just a two-dimensional plane right through the center of it, and you get a great circle route. And it sort of represents the shortest distance between 2 points on a sphere. And the great circle, this is the path that's usually taken in an aircraft. So if you were going from, say, on this model from, say, around Chicago over to Italy, you would take sort of that route. If you were to go from New York over to Paris, you would sort of make a more elliptical route. And that would be the quickest way, right? That's how we all go. So here it is, another example of a great circle. We kind of know what that is, I hope. Very simple. So here's the rotation of the Earth. It goes from west to east. And hence from, if you were to watch the sun, it's kind of like the opposite direction, right? Because the Earth rotation, the sun sets in the west, right? So that makes sense on a globe, right? But this is not proportionate to reality, right? We can't say this is actual reality. But this is their model that they tell us is right, correct? So we have to take these things into consideration when examining what they say their model is and how they represent it, because these words that they throw at us, they defy reality in a sense. They defy logical expression. If a ball is rotating at 1,000 miles to the east, and you're going, say, from a certain area in the east over to the west, then it would be a lot different, say, for example, if you were to go from west to east, if you were following that certain route on a plane. So here we go. We're going to look at Qantas 27 and 28 specifically. So these two are very well-known air flights. They go from Santiago and Sydney, and another one goes from opposite. So so these are two that I picked out that I want you guys to understand. And here's another funny thing that happened Masonic-wise. We've got the Eye of Providence and the Square and Compass. This is literally right on the news they had this year of this airline showing the Masonic symbols that they right on the news, open in plain sight. You can see it. They kind of show you what is happening basically and who owns this airline. I think, is it a coincidence, or is it just what, like they say, though, people were just having fun. The air flight personnel, on the ground. They just had some free time and decided to put in a couple of conspiracy theory emblems. Ha ha ha. That's up to you. You want to believe that, then go for it. So here we've got 3 popular routes that have been taken, and unfortunately Qantas doesn't have those flights anymore, so it's kind of hard to understand what's going on right now. But what they did do is say they started from Sydney right over here in Antarctica, and they went all the way across over to Santiago over here. And this is the flight path that we're going to look at right here. Here's another 2 popular ones. We have Sydney, and then we also have Johannesburg over there, which they take as well. And we also have another one to Buenos Aires, and this flight path from Sydney over to Buenos Aires, it's not really taken right now at all. I believe they had that and they discontinued it. But as you can see, none of these really cross Antarctica. They say that they might go over it a little bit, but as you can see, they don't even get near to the shoreline, and a lot of these different flight routes that they put out. So here it is on a Mercator. We've got Sydney. We've got Santiago over there. And so what they do is they go. This is a great circle route. So apparently they're flying straight over, basically the bottom half, but they don't hit Antarctica, right? And this is basically the same path taken from Sydney over to Santiago and back. So they have 2 flight routes that they had, but they're not there anymore, for right now at least. So let's look at these really fast. So if you go into, say, the Flight Aware website and you pick on the last one that was taken, it takes 12 hours total. It's 6 minutes. Funny. And then we've got a total, let's see here, total flight time starting at 12:51 over to 10:57. It landed. Everything kind of seems normal here. And let's go down a little bit. Let's see what's going on. Oh, let's see the flight. Oh, what do we have here? We've got elevation change. So what they do is they go up in elevation. They steadily go up in elevation towards, say, about the 37,000 mark or so, right about here. So they're specifically raising up slowly, and what they explain it as, and what a lot of people think, is that they're hitting these jet streams to make it go faster. Wouldn't that make sense? You hit a jet stream to save money and time. That would make the most sense, right? But what's funny is that they don't really explain this too well on a globe, since the globe is rotating, and it's basically, as we can see here in the next Qantas flight, it's comparing the times. So you've got 12 hours and 6 minutes. Oh, now you have 13 hours and 17 minutes. Almost, same time in a sense, going from there and back and back again. But you've got the globe rotating at 1,000 miles an hour. How would that work on a globe model? That whole thing about the conservation of momentum, gravity, all that just flies out the window when you look at reality, when you look at what things happen. So here we go again. What they do is they basically take the same flight path, and you can actually look at it. So it's around, and the distance on both of those is around 7,000 miles. Okay. And so, and the same for the elevation. How does this make any sense right here? Whoop! All of a sudden they go up 5,000 meters in altitude. basically. As you know, altitude, elevation, they both have the mean. But they both take the sea level as their ground base reading to measure this. So how does that work out? Are they just dodging different places just to go and hit different airstreams, jet streams? Same. If you could compare the other one, almost same miles an hour. Uh, right here, but these don't really add up, do they? They've got 29,000 feet here, but they're going up. It looks like above 30,000 feet, way above it, just like the other flight. So it's hard to trust these readings on all these. It seems like this is just a contrived, well thought out plan to just unfortunately distract us. So as we go on, we can see we're gonna watch a little short video now of Jaren explaining the flight path.
Ground speed is, and indicated airspeed. And once I got that all down, then it made a lot more sense to me. I mean, here's what we have to know, just so you can kind of see where I'm going forward with that, is if you just think of the southern flights and the fact that there is about, I don't know, 2,500 miles is a guess, difference between, let me bring up a flat earth map, just so we can look at it together, but you'll see, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, there we go. And I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about, because once I kind of realized this, then I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. That's a good one.
Can anyone hear? Can
okay, so we're going to be looking at this image here. Down. Okay. So when you're talking about Australia to Chile, and we know that Max Egan took that flight, took him 11 and a half hours, and the miles on that flight is 7,000. Okay. So doing that distance, if we get a little calculator here, and we say they went 7,000 miles, and we divide that by 11.5, okay, we get 608 miles per hour, okay, which makes sense. That's about what planes go. We know that, so everything seems to jive, right? Yet, other people have shown that there are, and I guess we could show this too, might as well, while we're here. If we go to earth.nullschool, we're going to figure out if there's any jet streams that those planes could be possibly getting into. Another thing that we've changed, I don't know if people know this, but when you get to this site, it used to be right on the azimuthal equidistant. Now when you bring that up, it actually starts with Australia in the middle. I'm sorry, Antarctica in the middle, which is just funny because it didn't used to do that until flat earth started being talked about. You have to kind of flip yourself your own little map here. Okay. So when we do this, all of a sudden things start looking a little bit more like they make sense. So we're doing wind, and then we're going to go height. Well, in between 250 and 700 is the jet streams, or is about 35,000 feet. 250 is about 32,000 feet, and 70 is about 45,000 feet. So, it'd be nice if they had like a 150 in here, but they don't. So when you look at these jet streams here, remember we're talking about a flight going from here out of, Australia. I can't really see where it's at now. Hello. Okay, over here. Oops, right about there. Okay, so it's coming this way. We know that they're circling this way. And if you catch some of these winds, that's 166 kilometers per hour, 186, 203. Whoops, that's too far. Getting over here, we got 147, 201. And this is like too much this way. Are you there? Okay, and then if you go even higher, so let's go up to the 70 here. Then you can see you've got winds at 116, at 100. Okay, so you've got all the, now here even higher, you've got even more. Okay, and this is probably around 45,000 or higher though. But you've got 153, 165, 177, 151. These ones here are flying around. And these are the polar winds. And the southern polar winds are year-round. They're not as variable as the middle is. And so what you've got now is, here's what we got to believe. We just found out that there is definitely air currents going. So what is more plausible? That the plane is going 608 miles per hour and is not having any wind? We just saw that all the wind is going in that direction. So if you believe in trade winds, which everybody should because that's how planes fly and that's how they cut time and that's why planes going generally in an east direction are faster than coming west. So if you believe that, then what is the reason the plane is only going 608 miles per hour? What you have to believe is, let's say that those planes are going 150, or there's a 150 mile per hour wind. Well, then you have to believe that that plane is actually going only 450, because that's what it means. When you're being carried by the jet streams, that only can be measured by ground-based tracking or GPS or with known distances. So what I'm trying to say is if this was actually 2,000 miles longer, okay, so let's say this is a much more vast area, that all you would need to do is get that plane up there and going a little bit faster and nobody would ever know. Not the pilot, not the people who are tracking the plane, not the people flying in the plane, not the passengers, nobody. Because there's nothing to tell you that what's happening. Basically, we know that they can add that 150 miles per hour to that speed. And again, if you take that, let's just take 150. So if instead of 608, now we add 150. Now we've got 758 miles per hour. And then you can times that by the 11.5. And that's just, now you've got 8,717. So now you've got an extra almost 2,000 miles, 1,700. And that's a low estimate. And again, that 11.5 hours is a quick flight for that way. And then going back, it takes 14 hours. Which makes sense. We just saw that the jet streams are usually going the other direction. So really just something that I think I've changed my mind on before. I was a little bit confused how that all worked, but now it's like, well, wait a second. Either I have to believe that the plane is going a lot slower than it can go because it doesn't affect, the speed of sound when you're being carried by the wind, because the speed of sound, you would break the sound barrier if you're cutting through the wind at that speed. But if you're being carried by any trade winds, you don't break, you just set the plane to 0.95 Mach and go. So either you have to believe that the plane is going 450 for some reason. I don't know why. No planes go just cruising at 450 for some reason. And then letting the jet streams pull them up to 600. Or the plane is really going as fast as it can, probably 650, plus an additional 150 miles per hour that makes up that distance. Again, the reason this would not be known is because if all they can base it off of is ground speed. So it's basically how much distance is the plane covering in a certain amount of time. Well, if there's a deception there, nobody would know. You just have to accept the fact that the plane is actually going 450, being carried with winds, and for some reason the plane doesn't maximize its fuel efficiency and actually get up in the winds and go as fast as it can. It just feels like cruising. I don't believe that, and I think that's the answer. That if it were true, that and there's a lot of people out there that think southern flights disprove the flat Earth, and actually the southern flights prove the flat Earth. So, or at least evidence towards it. So, amongst many others. So let's go back and see if there's any more chat here. What was I saying before we got on that? I took a diverge, didn't I? I was going to check if anybody had any questions. I see people punching in questions on ask.fm. I'll get to those after. Let's see here. So what is hilarious? You can't just say it's hilarious. It's hilarious that people question where they live when they're given no evidence. That's what's hilarious, I guess. They probably do cancel the flight when the winds are low. I wouldn't doubt that. Again, here's another thing, is if it was real, the distance was exactly like we're given. People say, how could you question the distance? It says it's 7,000 miles. Then show me a cruise that goes from New Zealand to South America. There isn't one. Well, there is if you go up to Japan and up to Alaska and around down by California and then down to the South America. But where's the boat that goes straight across? Well, there's not one because boats are not like planes. Planes can have the variance we just talked about of 200 miles per hour that nobody would really notice. But a boat cannot go more than 20 miles per hour. Sure, if it's got a current with it, maybe it's going 24. If it's going a little slow, it's going 18. But a cruise ship cannot make up that distance in the amount of time. They would be 5 days overdue. So.
And as you can see here, we've got Sydney coordinates 33. And we have the Santiago coordinates 33. Coincidence or not? I don't know. So, with that being said, what they're doing, what Jaron was saying, is that they're going on this predetermined flight path, basically, and the ground speed is the only thing they're really comparing it to with the mileage. So you could be going at different rate, and wouldn't really matter in a sense. Um, there's still things that we kind of need to understand about that, and that is, are the continents, are they sized correctly? Because from what we're seeing now and what we're kind of discovering is that they're actually shifting a lot of the continent sizes to match, say, what a time zone would be, or they're shifting these on the map to represent a time zone area that would fit into what they're doing. Because the time zones right now, from if you've listened to any of these videos about it, they're they have to be, in a sense, changed. So is it enough to make up the distance of what they're saying? Because the mileage from, say, Santiago to Sydney on a flat map, it would, comparatively from the maps we're looking at, be about a lot longer. Say if you were to go from the globe model. So we're still kind of figuring that out exactly. So there's still a little bit more research that needs to be done, but all those factors in combined, I believe they can tell us, they can tell the story of what's actually happening. So next, so funny enough, we've got 33 for both of these coordinates, like I said. And then now we have ETOPS 330. Now, ETOPS is basically it's a regulation that they had in place for a lot of the smaller twin-engine aircrafts that said that you can't actually fly in certain areas, because if an emergency were to happen, you were out of the zone to actually have a safe landing. So what this rule it did is it extended this special designation for these aircrafts to actually fly over different areas, and one of those areas was the polar region. So you could actually fly these aircrafts through that, and that was in 2011 that happened. But since then, they still have not actually used commercial air flights for this reason, funny enough. And there have been other ETOPS as well. I'm not just picking out the 330 just because I thought it was a number that I grabbed out, but that was the actual regulation that was used to allow these different aircrafts to go ahead. So what it means is 330 and all these other numbers, but besides ETOPS, is just the minutes away. So I believe it started with 60, then it went to 120, and now I believe we're at 370. That's the highest one we can go to now. That's 370 minutes from a suitable emergency airport to land at. And so let's see here. So yeah, 33, anyone? So again, with ETOPS, as it's kind of more clearly stated out here, it stands for Extended Operations. And so it governs how far from an emergency diversion airport certain aircraft are allowed to fly according to its model. For example, an Airbus A350 has been awarded a higher ETOPS value than a Boeing 737, meaning it can fly further from land towards its destination, and therefore on a straighter, more efficient route. The restrictions placed on aircraft previously at 60, and then it just says it goes up. So what I was trying to get out of that is that they use this 3-3 a lot, don't they? Is that a coincidence or not? I don't know. Decide. So Coriolis effect, like I was saying, not very well understood by people with the globe model. Coriolis, like I was saying before, you have as the Earth rotates itself, it takes the air with it. Thanks gravity, that includes the air through which planes fly. At the equator, the Earth spins twice as fast as commercial jets can fly. The rate slows the closer you get to the poles, but regardless, it's always going to be faster than a plane. So the Coriolis is always, let's see here, the rate slows, okay, as you get closer to the poles. But regardless, it's always going to be faster than a plane. So how, that's so funny. So we've got, we don't really take into account what I think they miss. They take into account other things, flying through the air for Coriolis, but say like a bullet, or I believe actually somebody was saying like a place kicker for an NFL team was actually taking into effect Coriolis for like some sort of kick, and so apparently, I don't know, I think the Coriolis was off or something, but yet a lot of times they don't even take Coriolis into effect at all when it comes to Earth, when the planes, basically. So why do planes need to take the Coriolis effect into account? The Coriolis effect is the result of the conservation of angular momentum. The most important influence of Coriolis on aircraft is the effect it has on wind direction. Pilots account for winds and make periodic corrections for changing winds. The Coriolis effect is not even felt, even on long-range flights. So I guess it's kind of, if that's kind of a little nitpicky there, isn't it? Coriolis is a little bit picky, maybe. So what about over Antarctica? There must have been some flights over Antarctica, right? I mean, when you can't just take a flight and south and just hit some dome or something and and go off or fall off the edge. So what's going on here? So currently, while no airline has yet opted to fly over Antarctica en route to another destination, flights to and around Antarctica purely for observation are operated by Antarctica Flights, departing Sydney, Brisbane, and Adelaide on the Qantas 747. And so, yeah, just over 12 hours. So this goes over the White Continent, but it goes to a predetermined point that, could or could not be the 90th degree parallel. But yet, we're led to believe, and a lot of times certain people think that this is actually flying over completely the Antarctic island that they say, the continent. So the services are slightly bizarre. It's as it says here, and they just kind of put you into this plane, and then they fly for 12 hours, and then you can go over and see a bunch of ice, and hey, look, it's a continent, right? But no airline has yet opted to fly over Antarctica en route to another destination. Flights to and around Antarctica are purely for observation, like I was saying before, the Qantas flight. And just only 4 hours is spent over the White Continent. You're not crossing anything. I think this is a misconception people have. And so we've got Rothera, Halley, These are two of the British bases that they have. They have research stations here, and what they do though here a lot of times is they have these planes. So these Twin Otter planes, I believe they are, and what they do is they fly around to different bases. They go at different seasons, and they go to predetermined points, obviously, but they will never cross completely Antarctica. They will never go from point from McMurdo over to the opposite side, or they'll never go from Rothera over to Davis Station in Antarctica. They're not allowed to, basically, in a sense. And I was kind of, this is what I was thinking about. I was like, well, if this is true, let me try and ask somebody who's actually done something like this, and see if this is real or not. So what I did was, and here you can see the predetermined flight routes that they do not cross Antarctica, and the comparisons. So as we get going here, I emailed this guy. His name's Rod. He's actually in charge of the air flights from Rothera base and a lot of the other British bases there that they fly around. And he actually did return my email. So I said, "Hi Rod, I am interested in your opinion on flights within Antarctica. If you could shed some light for me, for instance, would you ever fly from McMurdo Station's airport and fly south continent to the other side of Antarctica to the opposite coast? I'd like to talk to you about anything else, including GPS equipment you use. Thanks." And then I put Paul as my name. And so I even gave him a little map right here to show him, like from this point over to another point, specifically. And all I got was, "Hi, Paul. The information on our air operation is here." And so, blah, 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 blah. And he just sent me that map that I showed you before, the airline route map. So, many thanks for the interest, Rod. And I did send him a follow-up email. "Thanks, Rod, for your reply. I'm aware of the flight routes you take. I'm interested, though, if you ever go from one point to another, and say from South America and your base in Rothera to the opposite side to Australia or near Davis base or something. Do pilots fly over to the other side? Do you have anyone who's done that or something?" And then I said, "Thanks." And it's been 4 or 5 months now, and it's been only crickets. But as we can see here, we have different expeditions supposedly that have crossed Antarctica, that they say. So team crossings and partial team crossings of Antarctica. Huh. Kind of funny how we have a guy supposedly who crossed Antarctica. I think his name was Scott McBride, and he decided he's not really pictured here though, but from what he did, if you can see the cursor, is he kind of went what this guy was doing, Berkner Island, all the way to South Pole and over to here. So he kind of cut this direction, sort of. He didn't really cross, say, from here all the way over to here. Okay, so from what I can tell is that we have to either admit or come to the determination that this is actually true, accept that these pictures that they give us are real, and just accept the fact that what's going on is real and just go about our daily lives, or we have to accept the opposite, is that there is something going on, something's happening that they won't tell us about, or they are stationed completely off. So we've got different troll. It's got stations here, which I thought were funny, like Troll Station. There's a couple other ones that are funny. Deception Island, too. That's another funny name. But we've got all these different domes apparently too. I thought it was funny that they name different areas around in Antarctica. But yeah, we have to accept that these are real or not. I don't accept. I mean, it's hard to, especially when you have Rothschild. People like Rothschild are in charge of all this stuff. It seems like all these different people who are going on all these little excursions. All these people that are being financed by all these elite grabblers. Do we believe all these people are doing this stuff? And I mean, the evidence against it is just so it's so massive. I mean, it's almost hilarious, basically what's happening. So last but not least, I'm going to go over some of the science, and just after science, I'm just going to then go into a little bit of the expeditions. I don't want to go on for too long here. So here we have, this is called Ice Cube, and it is a research station in the South Pole. And what they do here is it's sort of, it's measuring for subatomic particles, like called neutrinos. And what they do is they take like high energy informations, and they probe down all this high energy, like all this they call it astronomical, the messengers, this high energy stuff, and they probe down, and they get this this really sort of like it's like this information from the ice, basically, as they go down with these like metal like tubings that they get, I don't know. It's funny that they call it Ice Cube. So we've got Ice Cube here, and funny, haha, Ice Cube. And we also have there's so many things that go on in Antarctica. And this one is sort of like these are satellites that actually supposedly go around, and they map out gravity in Antarctica. And so what they do is, well, they're basically taking samples of different areas from how close they are from each other a lot of times, and they're making a mapping of that, and they're correlating that with different techniques they use, basically. And so they do a lot of different techniques, and they also use a gravimeter, basically. And this is like it's an instrument to measure basically the force of gravity. And so it's taking the constant, what they call the G. This is at 9.8 meters per second, or I think it's 32.2 feet per second. And they take that, and depending on the altitude and the amount of distance between you and the center of the Earth, they get those readings. And so yeah, so there's been different projects that have been using this technology too, and they also use microwaves actually to kind of read exactly the differences between the satellites. So they're sending out microwave readings, and they also do moon mapping. So the same technology they use for this, they also apparently do at the moon. So, so here's just an image of Antarctica that was taken. They use these different satellite readings to get the gravities, but in this certain area, they actually haven't been able to get any sort of data, unfortunately, because supposedly these satellites that go around, they don't actually orbit this area. It's kind of like an area that is off limits, unfortunately, because of the way the trajectory of the satellites have to work. So they really want to know a lot more about that kind of area. Um, is that suspicious? Coincidence? I don't know. You guys decide. And so here's what they do. This is the actual gravity map of Earth from ESA satellite, the GOCE, if you want to call it that, or the GOCE, GOCE. And as you can see, I just smell a lot of indoctrination here. Funny how they determine this stuff. Wow. So what they do, and here's the moon as well too. So we have apparently you can see all the different elevations here on the moon, supposedly. So what it does, I think it was radio signals, and they define it using radio signals too, and then they so the satellites orbit the moon, the radio signals. They fly over areas of greater and lesser gravity, and so yeah, greater and lesser gravity is like moons, mountains, and stuff. And so the distance of the two spacecrafts, they change slightly sometimes. So they get these readings apparently from measuring the two satellites, like I said before. And I guess they use a little bit of triangulation as well too. Uh-oh, South Pole Gravity Station. Do not enter. We've got gravity here. So, yeah, here we've got gravity station. So here we have what I was kind of saying before. They've got these long sort of readers. So they measure the downward gravity of as it goes down, right? And they read these sort of through these subatomic particles, and they can kind of tell they can kind of tell how gravity. Uh-oh, gravity's behaving. And then I don't want to keep going on about science. So here's another one. We've got meteorites. This is the search for meteorites in Antarctica. Don Pettit was actually one of the astronauts actually in charge of that. So they just go out and they find meteorites basically, and you have to not touch them with your hands. You have to get them in usually they use like some sort of plastic little container, and they put it in there. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to go over the timeline of Antarctica. So I think it's very important to know exactly what occurred and why things happened as the way they did, and what events and what took place. And like I was saying before, it's important to understand the Scrabbler history. So what we're thinking is that the operations, before I get into it, the operations happen in kind of a sequential order. So we had, say, high jump, and we had, say, Operation Windmill, and we had all these different government operations that happen in a certain order because of the way they found out certain things about kind of the outer land. So it kind of all ties into Antarctica in a way. So we've got a nice timeline here. It's kind of starting in the 20s. So we've got Byrd's first expedition, the first one. So then we've got Byrd's second expedition. Then we've got the United States Antarctic Service expedition. We've got Operation High Jump. Then we've got Operation Windmill, Roan. Then we got Operation Deep Freeze. And then at the end of all of this, we've got the Antarctic Treaty and the creation of NASA. Huh. Kind of put 2 and 2 together there. So the first expedition, this is Byrd before. So what they did, they rode on a ship called the City of New York, and they went around Antarctica a little bit. They went to as they went around Antarctica, they went to different areas and they set up camp. And this is when he founded Little America. So it was constructed on the Ross Ice Shelf, which you can kind of see here is the Ross Sea, and the Ross Sea is where a lot of these famous videos are taken of the ice shelf there, which is like kind of like the ice wall, like what you would think of the ice wall would be. This is all right here. These are just very high barriers. Same with a lot of other areas of Antarctica, but this one is sort of famous for it. This is where we have McMurdo Station too, right here, McMurdo Sound as well. And we have just shortly into it, sort of the North Pole. So it's kind of so they like this area. And so this is when he began Little America. As a lot of you might know what Little America was. It was kind of this area which they set up, the Navy did when they first got into the Antarctic continent. And as you can see here, they have got the routes they took, ending at Little America. So the second trip, let's see, was sort of the same, but this one, it was financed by Rockefeller. So as I was saying before, Rockefeller's land was kind of named after him. So when Byrd ventured around that area, he named a different land according to whoever who financed him, or whoever who he was around, or whoever he was, who had family and stuff like that. This one was kind of the same. They went to Little America, explored around a little bit, and yeah, they really wanted to map out the Antarctic continent. Basically, that was the whole point of it, is to use different up-to-date surveying techniques and land based equipment, aerial planes. They use that a lot to go around. And there's a picture of it. And so here we have Operation High Jump. So Operation High Jump, it was in 46 and 47, and it was organized by Byrd as well. And it took in about 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft. Now, isn't that a little suspicious, huh? No. The fourth culminating expedition was the high jump, and it was after the U.S. Antarctic expedition, which was basically also called Byrd's third expedition as well, and it went around. It had a huge fleet of naval crafts. It was known for being like the most famous. The just all these different things that are happening. Everyone was it was kind of a little bit more known basically, and it was terminated very shortly all of a sudden. So that's kind of suspicious. You have to wonder, why was it terminated all of a sudden? Did they find something? What were they doing in high jump basically? And you have to wonder exactly what they found, right? Did they find anything suspicious? Do they give you anything to look at? Do the official reports tell you anything? No. But you have to wonder exactly what they were doing, basically. And supposedly they were there for science. So the next one, we have Operation Windmill. So it was the second one in the what they call the Antarctica Development Project, and it was mostly a training mission. This was in 47 and 48, and this operation was kind of the follow-up to the first Antarctica Development Project that I was talking to you about, the Operation High Jump. So this was the follow-up of High Jump, basically. So they found something, I believe, and then they went back. So this one was, wasn't as big. They just kind of went over there, and what they say was what they did was, I don't believe it was actually anything to do with what they did. And then after that, it kind of slowly died down a little bit. They had the Rhone Antarctica Research Expedition, and it was a private expedition, and it was not as well known, and it was based out of Stonington Island, if any of you know where that was, and it was the first to take women to overwinter. So a lot of women. Edith Roan was a part of that. She was kind of a famous Antarctica figure. And then last but not least, we have deep freeze. So we have deep freeze in 55 and 56. So this is right before the creation of the Antarctic Treaty and NASA. So all of those kind of fall into line to how they actually developed. So Operation Deep Freeze was actually then followed up by Operation Deep Freeze 2 and Deep Freeze 3 and so on. So these were just continuing U.S. presence in the Antarctic, and it's always funny how the U.S. is actually involved in these South Pole, these sort of Masonic, ritualistic expeditions. I believe these missions to the South. And so what they did, they didn't really do much here. It was just a resupply, supposedly they said. But what a lot of people think is a lot different. As we can go over here, we have Antarctic Treaty, and we have NASA, and so above you've got deep freeze, discovery of the firmament. So what did they really find? This is kind of a good representation on what took place. So you've got, like I said, high jump, ice wall, discovery of some sort of different something they found, maybe the dome or something that was preventing them from going around, since they terminated that all of a sudden. Discovery of the firmament, maybe. Then 58, the firmament is Van Allen belts. So right after that, they discovered Van Allen belts, and then after that we have the Antarctica Treaty, and then after that Operation Fishbowl in 1962, and that was what they say was the nuking of the firmament. And then we also have the hoax to find the firmament. And okay, that's it. So I would like to open it up to anyone that wants to talk about any of this. So I don't have any predetermined questions I'd like to ask, but if anyone from chat has any questions, anyone want to say anything?
You talking to me?
Anyone from chat or anyone from the YouTube chat or anyone from chat?
I said, are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? No, I'm not talking to you, Rob. I'm just anyone. Do you want to talk? You want to talk about anything, Rob?
I'm gonna start by saying hello.
Hey, Rob.
And I just got here, so I missed.
No problem.
I was wondering where all the potatoes went.
I don't know. Did they all leave?
Potatoes?
Oh, here.
No,
I'm
they're
here.
there.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You put some time into that, man.
Yeah, it was long. I thought it was gonna be
Yeah.
a little shorter. So hopefully everyone's awake. Sorry.
Be away making a brew.
Yeah.
You guys watching on the?
Yeah, I'm live streaming on my channel, and then we've got other people live streaming right now. So yeah, that was basically just a presentation I made. It took a little bit. So yeah, we're just finding out what's going on in Antarctica really, and we've just been kind of going over the basis of the history, people who are involved, and different operations. And so we're kind of questioning a little bit more, I think. And I think what we need to do is sort of raise these questions more often, I think, and go into these states of these kind of not knowing things, because I mean, not knowing everything is basically, you know, you don't have to know everything about everything, but as long as you're raising these questions, I think, about, you know, reality, it's important, and it's important for us to understand certain things.
I agree.
How long have you been doing this for?
Presentation.
It was long, yeah. I did this for last 2 weeks, I'd say, on and off, here and there. I worked a lot, but yeah, I just did it for 2 weeks. But a lot of the videos I had before I didn't put on, so it could have been like a lot longer, I guess. But yeah, this is just kind of a little bit here and there. But I've been researching it for over 2 years. But I mean, more so or less so, you know, I just took whatever I had and then I put a little bit in and there, here and there, after I did it once and stuff like that. So yeah. All right, if no one has anything, I'm just gonna shut her down. I mean, it's, you know, the information we have right now is, it's kind of set in, you know, it's hard to know a lot more, you know, unless we actually go to Antarctica. So it might be a lot of, you know, just kind of touching bases on the stuff that we kind of already know. So that's only you can do. But I mean, I think I brought in some information that, say, like the third, you know, a lot of different symbology, like a lot of people might not have known. Say like the Masonic poles in the South Pole. You've got the 90s. You've got different homages to gods. You know, the kind of symbology to different people. You know, Armstrong, and you've got, you know, different explorers. I think the Masons. I don't think maybe a lot of people might have known about the Masonic explorers. That basically all the famous explorers were actually Masons, and they actually control, what they do in Antarctica, everything that goes on there. I think still, and even with Apollo missions, everything is basically Masonic, and like I say Masonic, I just don't mean the friendly Masons like I was saying. I mean just the entities within Masonry and the controlling secret societies that you can say that kind of determine what you think and not. So that's mostly what I wanted to get around, is that it's how you classify things and people, and what they did in the history. But the history, you could take it for what it is. Like I was saying, it's just the history that we're presented with, and all these grabbler special guys that think they can, tell us what we believe, and we're not going to question it. And thinking, that they didn't revert history somehow is probably not the most, the greatest way to think about it. But understanding what they actually wrote and what they put into stone, supposedly for us to think is good, and questioning it's always good. So I can play. Let's see. Maybe I'll play. There's a good video that I have here. If anyone wants to stick around. So, it's called. Sorry. Basically, we're closed. Antarctica's closed. This is a video done by Taboo Conspiracy. So it's kind of long. I don't know if
I ain't going anywhere.
I don't know how long you guys have,
here.
but I'm gonna play this right now. It's just a video that shows you exactly what's going on in Antarctica. So this is really good information for anyone to actually understand. And this was taken down from my channel a couple days ago.
Welcome everyone. This video is in response to the many globe propagandists who demand that I show a picture of the edge of the flat earth. For the dozens of these ball-loving zealots with multiple sock puppet accounts who repeat this mantra daily, your demand is ridiculous. But you probably already knew that, right? And that's why you probably keep demanding it.
Let me see if it's playing. If you can
It's actually pretty funny that I just got one of these take a picture comments an hour ago. I'm going to prove in this video that independent travel is not allowed under the Antarctic Treaty System. That fact alone should cause any thinking person to begin questioning our official models. Because something big is being hidden from we, the plebeians, and we're not talking about penguins. For most flat earthers, based on the information that we can reasonably gather, Antarctica constitutes the outer rim of the known world. In other words, Antarctica is likely the shoreline to all of the world's oceans. Like a ring magnet, north constitutes the center of our flat earth map, and south is every direction away from the northern center. And before I get a dozen comments claiming that such a magnet is impossible, here's a ring magnet shown here. Notice that south is in every direction away from the center north magnetic pole. This is where the 60th south parallel is on a Mercator map. This is the 60th south parallel on a potential flat earth azimuthal equidistant map. It seems that Antarctica constitutes the circular shore of the known world. So, demanding that I take a picture of a possible edge of the Earth, if any, requires me to not only travel below the 60th south parallel, represented by the circle, but also to cross the entire breadth of Antarctica. According to official numbers, Antarctica has a diameter of roughly 3,400 miles, and so that means our trek will include a long boat ride for hundreds of miles below the 60th south parallel, plus a minimum 6,800 mile round-trip hike across Antarctica. That's assuming the official model is correct. Maybe we could fly to one of the ceremonial pole areas, but that would still leave at least a 3,400-mile hike. In addition, we wouldn't know for sure whether the plane trip itself was interfering with our results, since the pilot would have to follow a designated path outlined by the Antarctic Treaty System, and who truly knows what direction that is until we get there. In order to be fully confident, we would really need to stick to the ground and have control over our own pathway, where we can control our direct southerly route opposite of the northern magnetic pole. Now, whether Antarctica is a smaller continent next to the outer rim, or whether Antarctica is indeed the shoreline of the known world, I don't know the answer. Flat earthers don't have a government budget to spend $1 billion to hire hundreds of cartographers and fleets of boats and planes to map the entire world. But even if flat earthers had the money, we would still run into the Antarctic problem, which is the point of this video. So, what is the Antarctic problem? It is the fact that independent travel is not allowed below the 60th south parallel in any reasonable manner to make any determination as to whether Antarctica is the shoreline boundary circumscribing the known world, or whether Antarctica is simply a continent a little north of the true but unnamed southerly shoreline of the Earth's oceans. For all we know, Antarctica may be an infinite plain that is uninhabitable at further distances. Again, we don't know. But, as I will describe in this video, I suspect that Antarctica is the shoreline circumscribing the known world due to the unbelievable restrictions placed on travel there. Excluding a couple of questionable claims, the total lack of north-south circumnavigation only proves the same. But if I'm not allowed by our governments to independently travel below the 60th south parallel and then to traverse Antarctica over 6,800 miles, then I cannot take a picture of a theoretical edge, dome, or those other lands beyond the South Pole, whatever the case may be. But you probably don't quite grasp how much area is really being blocked off under the Antarctic Treaty System. Let's look at it from the alleged 60th north parallel, because this will give you an idea of the tremendous area blocked off to independent exploration. This is the area of the 60th north parallels. As you can see, the 60th north parallel includes all of northern Canada, Alaska, much of Russia, including St. Petersburg and other major cities, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Greenland. It is huge. Now, why in the world is this much area blocked off at the south? Do you really think it's because of penguins?
You see, first there was just one, now there's thousands of them.
Are they trying to tell us something?
So what's the problem?
Well, among other things, we are messing with their food chain.
And we have got to do something about it.
We suggest a ban on all marine harvesting.
Do you think the child propaganda from Happy Feet is true? The Antarctic Treaty was executed in 1959 and has been in place ever since. Think about it. No country had any real alleged concerns about the environment at that time. One of the more interesting facts is that the Soviet Union also ratified the treaty, and did so from the beginning on December 1st, 1959. Do you really think the Soviets were truly concerned about the penguins and the fragile Antarctic environment? In other words, America, the USSR, and the rest of the major countries of the world remain partners in generally closing Antarctica throughout most of the so-called fake space race, the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, the fake moon landings, most of the Cold War, the Vietnam War, the Six-Day War, the Soviet-Afghan War, and the collapse of the Soviet Union, which at that time Russia continued as a signatory in 1992. That's some peculiar cooperation transcending international conflicts, don't you think? Do you really think that the vast resources and strategic military benefits of Antarctica were multilaterally put aside because of penguins? Even North Korea has been a signatory since 1987. For some strange reason, the Antarctic Treaty has remained sacrosanct for nearly 60 years, regardless of worldwide conflicts. For the reasonable, objective person, alarm bells should be going off right now. As I was preparing this video, I found something else that's interesting. Out of all the flags of all the countries across the earth, can you guess which one only shows a map of the country as the emblem of the country? You guessed it. Only one. Antarctica. Yeah, the one country they want you to know the shape of. That doesn't reek of programming, does it? Let me make this clear from the beginning. Travel to Antarctica is more difficult than travel to a military base. Sure, the military base may have a visitor shop near the entrance, but if you go beyond that visitor shop or another designated travel area without clearance, you're going to get arrested, or something worse. I'm sure I already have a few globe shills ready to pounce, armed with various inanities to counter my statement, but let's ignore the global spin. This video is about evidence and facts and the reasonable assumptions based thereon. So let's decide to take a theoretical trip across Antarctica to find the edge, if any. I'm not talking about going to the visitor center along the edge of Antarctica, or an overly expensive cruise to a small ice shelf along the edge with a small excursion, or a flight to one of the multiple ceremonial poles, and then straight back again. Yeah, that's not strange at all. I must reiterate, because I will get a dozen comments telling me to take a cruise or that someone's best friend went to Antarctica. I am not talking about a trip to one of the few designated tourist locations of Antarctica. I'm talking about a real trek, pointed directly south across the entire 3,400-mile breadth of Antarctica and back again to determine whether Antarctica circumscribes the known world and to possibly determine whether there's an edge, a dome, or whatever, and then take a picture of it. I'm talking about repeating the trek of Admiral Byrd and discovering that area as big as the United States that has never been seen by a human being on the other side of the South Pole, full of minerals and such just waiting to be explored.
But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Okay, let's get started with our theoretical trip. So what is required to trek across the entire breadth of Antarctica? Now, I'm in the United States, and so we're going to examine it from the position of a slave of the U.S. But the rules are going to be the same for all 53 signatory countries of the Antarctic Treaty, and everyone else, since these countries all enforce the same provisions. To begin with, we need to understand that anything below the 60th south parallel is referred to as the Antarctic Treaty Area. What does that mean? That means I'm generally not allowed within hundreds of miles of Antarctica, from approximately 400 to 900 miles, without obtaining a permit to do so. Now, the U.S. government has recorded that some sailors have seen the mountain ranges of Antarctica at 300 miles distance while sailing. Of course, 300 miles should be impossible on the globe with a curvature drop of 11.4 miles, but the 60th parallel is between 400 and 900 miles away from the shoreline of Antarctica. Even under a flat Earth, that's a lot of lower atmosphere to see through, also referred to as atmospheric extinction factor, and a lot of angular size reduction. Despite the claims of the ignorant globe zealots, you can't see through that much lower atmosphere. In other words, I can't even see Antarctica from the ocean without first obtaining a permit from the U.S. State Department, or whatever department that controls that in your country. Taking a trip to the 60th South Parallel isn't going to accomplish anything, and so we're stuck with getting a government permit. So let's go through the steps to obtaining a permit from the U.S. State Department. This is the handbook of the Antarctic Treaty System. These are the rules that govern all signatories to the treaty. We'll be citing to it regularly as it lays down the rules that govern the Antarctic Treaty beyond the fluff of the treaty language itself. Most importantly, we're going to look at the rules governing non-governmental activities located here, and some of the rules regarding the protection of the environment located here. Now, as a U.S. slave, this is the first form you'll have to submit to get approved to travel to Antarctica. The form itself seems rather innocuous until you understand exactly what is involved in the application process. In summary, Antarctica is treated as a giant natural reserve. Like a military base, all activities and pathways in Antarctica must be approved. This is unlike any other area in the world, except maybe a place like North Korea. So when I say that no independent travel is allowed below the 60th south parallel, I'm stating an admitted fact well recorded as international law. The protocol states as a matter of principle that all activities are to be planned and conducted on the basis of information sufficient to evaluate their possible impact on the Antarctic environment and its associated ecosystems, and on the value of Antarctica for the conduct of scientific research. Organizers should be aware that the environmental protocol requires that activities shall be modified, suspended, or canceled if they result or threaten to result in impacts upon the Antarctic environment or dependent or associated ecosystems. If you visit Russia with a Russian visa, for example, are you limited to one particular neighborhood and certain pathways? For those who visit America as a tourist, are you restricted to New York City? Or are you generally allowed to travel around America? No one is just allowed to travel around Antarctica. All of your activities, vehicles, and pathways must be approved, but it gets much worse. Now, how many genuine people watching this video think that the purpose of seeing the edge, the dome, or the extended plain beyond Antarctica would be approved by the U.S. State Department and the other myriad of agencies? Are you ready to litigate the matter when some State Department official arbitrarily says something like, "I think your expedition is frivolous and would be too damaging to the environment, especially in the light of the frivolity of the expedition"? I don't think a court will overturn that decision, especially when treaty law supersedes any rights you may think you have. So, we're going to have to come up with some fake expedition that will somehow get approved. Let's say we're a tree-hugging Luciferian geologist conducting a comprehensive analysis of the global carbon footprint on Antarctica and its flora and fauna. I think that sounds plausible, and so we could hypothetically fake our way in with respect to our purpose, but it will be tricky. Okay, I'm not advocating that anyone break the law. This is all theoretical. That brings us to the next point. Entire swaths of land are entirely off limits to all travel. These are called specially protected areas. It's pretty much guaranteed that no one is going to get a permit to go through a specially protected area. If my math is right, that's 1,373 square miles that are allegedly specially protected areas. You can see the maps on the websites, but I don't have time to plot all of them. Now, I agree that's not huge in comparison to the total alleged area of Antarctica. But I believe there's a distinct possibility that those swaths of land could be coordinated in such a way as to prevent me from going through Antarctica easily. So, right from the beginning, my route may be extra hard, especially if mountain pathways are blocked and the areas are much larger than claimed due to likely globe distance shenanigans. But let's go ahead and assume we can navigate around those prohibited, specially protected areas. Next, no motorized equipment is allowed at all for non-governmental personnel. Page 308 states, "Do not use aircraft, vessels, small boats, or other means of transport in ways that disturb wildlife either at sea or on land." That seems kind of hard and very subjective, doesn't it? Antarctica itself is supposed to have a diameter of 3,400 miles. That means no motorized equipment for at least a 6,800 mile round trip? That sounds pretty damn impossible, right? Especially if Antarctica is much bigger than what is claimed. What about sled dogs? Surely they'll be allowed. What's that? Sled dogs aren't even allowed? Okay, so our trip is now limited to a very long hike in insanely harsh conditions over an extreme rise of elevation. On a side note, Antarctica has the highest average elevation of any alleged continent, but I'm sure that's just coincidence, right? But getting back to our insane trip, we not only have to walk at least 6,800 miles, mostly depending on when we need to turn around, we must also tread extremely lightly as walking on plants in Antarctica is prohibited. I can't damage plants or frighten wildlife on a 6,800 mile journey in a wilderness? I wonder if the Lewis and Clark expedition was limited by such requirements. Good luck traversing 6,800 miles on foot without damaging plants or frightening wildlife with no motorized equipment. I'm not saying that we couldn't figure out a way to get around these big issues, or maybe we could just, theoretically ignore the issues once we get there. But again, I'm not advocating that anyone break the law. I'm saying that these are listed enforcement rules under the Antarctic Treaty System. And so think of how easy it would be for one of the many international bureaucrats reviewing our application to deny a permit to trek across Antarctica based on this one plausible excuse. Sorry, you're going to end up walking on plants and scaring birds at least one time during your 6,800-mile journey, and the Antarctic Treaty System prohibits such activities. Application denied. For argument's sake, let's just assume we're going to figure out a way to get around that. Don't ask me how. The next issue is, how are we going to carry all that food and fuel for heat? And don't think that the Antarctic Treaty System isn't concerned with how we store our fuel. The United States itself is roughly 2,500 miles across. So imagine the difficulty of hauling food, climbing at extremely high and unknown elevations, and carrying all of your extremely warm gear and supplies across the United States from coast to coast and back again, all on foot with no food stops along the way. And don't forget, we're going to have to haul our poop as well. You are going to have to drag your poop with you on your 6,800-mile Antarctic hike. But it gets worse. Your poop is regulated by a different pseudo-government agency, the National Science Foundation. Here's where you can learn about what permit is required if you wanted to dispose of your poop on your 6,800-mile journey if you don't want to carry it. Could you imagine for your next trip to France and the custom agent saying, "Welcome to France. By the way, no vehicles are allowed, no animals are allowed, do not walk on any plants, and here's a bag for your poop. Be sure to bring a bag full." If you don't want to carry your poop, you're going to have to get a permit from the National Science Foundation. Enjoy your stay. But here's another and potentially bigger problem. What if there is no edge when you get there, but the conditions only get worse? How many years of supplies can one carry by a handheld sled and some skis? What if Antarctica goes beyond 3,400 miles? What then? When do you turn your back, and how do you prove it? Because the Globe Chills are just going to call you a liar anyways. Any sane person right now would have to admit that our little trip is impossible, but we have a lot of paid-for apologists for our slave masters who will still somehow claim that I'm lying when I say that independent travel in Antarctica is prohibited. But we're not done. Going back to our form DS4131, in addition to disclosure to other parties to the treaty, the information provided may be shared with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to ensure compliance with 40 CFR Part 8 Environmental Impact Assessment of Non-Governmental Activities in Antarctica, as well as with other relevant U.S. agencies. This brings us to one of the most important issues facing us. What is an environmental impact assessment? No country, even North Korea, would ever require an environmental assessment before traveling across their country. It's insane. Here's the definition of an environmental impacts assessment in the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations. Environmental impact assessment means the environmental review process required by the provisions of this part and by Annex 1 of the Protocol, and includes preparation by the operator and U.S. government review of an environmental document and public access to and circulation of environmental documents to other parties and the Committee on Environmental Protection as required by Annex 1 of the Protocol. Well, let's see what the Committee for Environmental Protection says. Article 8 of the Protocol requires the parties to conduct environmental impact assessments for the Antarctic activities and provides 3 levels of assessment according to the potential impacts of each activity. The procedures for environmental impact assessment are detailed in Annex 1 of the Protocol. If a proposed activity is determined in a preliminary stage of assessment to have less than a minor or transitory impact, it may proceed. If an activity is determined as likely to have a minor or transitory impact, then an initial environmental evaluation must be prepared. If an initial environmental evaluation indicates the potential for more than a minor or transitory impact, or if such impact is otherwise determined to be likely, a comprehensive environmental evaluation must be prepared. Draft CEEs are made publicly available and considered by the CEP, which then advises the ATCM, and that's a Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting. Comments provided by other parties in the ATCM must be addressed in a final CE, which is used as a basis for making a decision about whether and how the activity is conducted. Same law as here. It is the comprehensive environmental evaluation that's going to kill our expedition. Here's the regulation, and this applies to all signatories, including North Korea. Any operator who plans a non-governmental expedition that would require a CEE must submit a draft of the CEE by December 1st of the preceding year. Within 15 days of receipt of the draft CEE, EPA will send it to the Department of State, which will circulate it to all parties to the protocol and forward it to the Committee for Environmental Protection established by the protocol and publish notice of receipt of the CEE and request for comments on the CEE in the Federal Register and will provide copies to any person upon request. The EPA will accept public comments on the CEE for a period of 90 days following notice in the Federal Register. The EPA, in consultation with other interested federal agencies, will evaluate the CEE to determine if the CEE meets the requirements under Article 8, Annex 1 to the protocol and the provisions of this part, and will transmit its comments to the operator within 120 days following publication in the Federal Register of the notice of availability of the CEE. So, now, I'm sure most of you probably just went brain dead when I read that, so let me explain it. First, our CEE, that's our Comprehensive Environmental Evaluation, must pass the EPA's initial review. Not an easy task. Next, the Department of State, along with its Office of Ocean and Polar Affairs Bureau of Oceans, Environment and Science, must review it. Next, it will be sent to all parties. That's 100 countries, by the way. Next, your assessment must be approved by an international bureaucracy called the Committee for Environmental Protection. After their highly unlikely approval, the EPA will then publish it in the United States Federal Register. Now, why would they do that? Because any supposed private tree-hugging group can now sue to stop you from going there. Once that is done, assuming you haven't been sued, then the EPA, along with all of the other interested federal agency, whatever the hell that means, evaluates it again. Do you realize the amount of legal work this would entail? Do you realize how easy it would be for any one of hundreds of entities or thousands of bureaucrats to halt your expedition? Again, this applies to all countries. One person in the comments of my last Antarctic video claimed that it wasn't necessary in the United Kingdom. Well, he lied. The Environmental or Madrid Protocol is part of the Antarctic Treaty System and applies to all countries. Here is the requirement on the UK application if you're interested. As explained above, for every person in the United States who wants to get a permit to travel across Antarctica has to first submit the environmental impact assessment to the EPA. You know, the freedom-loving EPA.
Beware! Beware! Time is short! EPA!
Impact statement costs. This is very similar. A typical environmental impact statement costs from $250,000 to $2 million. And those are a lot easier than this comprehensive environmental analysis required under the Antarctic Treaty. For us, the biggest problem is that you would have to incur the expense of the environmental impact assessment before you know if you're denied, due to whatever arbitrary claim a bureaucrat can think of. Do you see how difficult this environmental assessment will be? How would one know the environmental impact on an area which you've never been to, and very little information would be available? With a normal environmental assessment, you'd be able to send an engineering firm to the location to make the assessment with attorneys who would draft the statement. In this case, you can't send an engineering firm all the way to Antarctica, and so you have to hire Antarctic experts who have been to the same places you're planning on walking through. Now, how many of those do you think there are? I say that we can safely assume that the price of getting an environmental impacts assessment approved by the EPA and the international agency would cost millions, assuming no supposed private group sues you once it's published in the Federal Register. Do you have more than $2 million to spend for an environmental impact assessment? And then, what if the EPA or the Committee for Environmental Protection or one of the other agencies says no? Maybe that not enough information was provided. Are you ready to spend another $2 million to fight that in court? But you still have to have your purpose approved. Do you see the problem there? You would likely spend millions on getting the environmental impact statement, only later to have some official at the International Committee for Environmental Protection reject your purpose in Antarctica. You would truly gamble millions in this silly endeavor. to learn more about the environmental assessment procedures with the Committee for Environmental Protection, you can research it here. See also, let's get to the final issue we're going to run into. 7 countries claim territorial rights to various parts of Antarctica. Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the United Kingdom all maintain territorial claims in Antarctica. I did find it interesting that the USSR never claimed territorial rights to Antarctica. Yeah. I'm willing to bet that my trip across Antarctica is going to need other permits from other countries based only on territorial claims. Getting more permits or visas from other countries who have alleged territory in Antarctica? Yeah, that shouldn't add too much to our already strained budget. Now, just for the propagandist who's going to claim that's not true, I quote, "The Antarctic Treaty puts aside the potential for conflict over sovereignty for providing that nothing that occurs while the treaty is enforced will enhance or diminish territorial claims." Meaning, the territorial claims trump. So, the next dumb shill who demands that you take a picture of the edge or that anyone can go to Antarctica and see for themselves that it's a continent, be sure to point out what a damn idiot they are, and then share this video because everything in here is fact that anyone can look up, and I'll try to have all the links in the description. Of course, the lying minions from the Ministry of Truth will spin and call you names, but at least the rest of the world will see the liars for who they truly are. This is Taboo Conspiracy, signing off.
That was the Taboo Conspiracy 3 video. I'm sure some of you guys have seen that. That was kind of an older one, but still very relevant today. Nothing's really changed.
Off.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Alright, and with that, I'm going to end this stream. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. Goodbye.